Hello, Vibe Coders. So we're back. I missed a few days because I had meetings that were conflicting with the broadcast time, but we're going to pick up where we left off. So we're in the process of sort of ramping up the towards the launch of the Context Bonsai plugin. So the Context Bonsai plugin is what we've been doing over the last several streams. We have built a plugin that allows uh, the LLM agent to eliminate things out of its current context window. It can select a message range, prune it, and replace those messages with a summary and a list of keywords. And then there's also a tool that allows it to retrieve that context back if it decides it needs it later. So it can think about what's in the summary, think about what's in those index terms, and if it seems like that has something relevant that it needs, it can pull it right back in. Um, Now, at the end of the previous stream, we made a mistake and just vibe coded a plan that I thought was going to be simple, and it's re-implemented our commits on top of an older commit than intended. The intention was to pull the latest upstream, recommit or re-implement all of our commits on the latest upstream, sort of rebase, but it probably isn't a rebase because there's so many commits that have changed. It would be a re-implementation, but using those same ideas in each commit. It did this, but it pulled a much older commit instead of the latest commit. So we had a lot of cleanup to do. And off stream, I just poked it along and had the thing clean it up. It took, I don't know, about 3 interactions and it fixed everything. So we're back now and we can keep marching towards that launch of the plugin where it's in a state where it's sort of I can ask people to try it out if they're interested, and it's not sort of a sloppy vibe coding mess. So we're re-implementing the changes on the latest. We're gonna do code reviews of everything that's in there, make sure it has everything we want and nothing that we don't want. Then we'll be creating a video and a blog post and things to explain what Context Bonsai does. So let's get started. Oh, we're also running several side projects. These side projects, we're using Context Bonsai in those side projects to make sure that it's operating the way we want and expect. And so far, it's been very promising. The Context Bonsai sort of makes it feel like you have an infinite context window. You can just keep working and working and working. The model, for the most part, doesn't seem to be getting dumber and dumber as you fill up the context window. And it also, so far, only once has it hit auto compaction. And that's before we put in all of the final tuning and everything. But since then, it routinely prunes the context at appropriate times and is just able to continue its work, which is great. That's exactly what we're going for. So let's get started. Okay. Here is, oh yeah, let's get this set up so that you can actually read the little window here. These windows on the bottom right tell us which project we're working on, and we sort of flip between the various projects as we go along. And on the Context Bonsai plugin project, we have two separate windows. One is where we're modifying OpenCode itself, and one is where we're modifying the plugin code. So right now, we're working on simplifying all of the changes to OpenCode that we made and getting rid of as much as possible. And I think we've pretty much gotten rid of as much as possible, which is why we're on to the rebase part. I've had it rewrite a new story after examining what went wrong and having a better idea of what we're supposed to do going forward. Let me make sure that, let me see, what was the last thing I asked it to do? Ooh. Message history isn't working. Like the entry that I put in this box isn't working. Usually you can press up and see what I did. Oh, cleaning up some old stories. Okay. Use the planning guidance document to make a plan. Okay, so I'm telling it to use our planning guidance.md document to make a new plan. That document explains how I like the plans to be created, and it also tells it how to get its plan reviewed by subagents. So the subagents launch and they find any ambiguities because the original LLM, when it creates documents, it tends to forget that other people don't know what it already knows, what it has in its context, and it makes references to things and assumptions that other people know what it's talking about when they don't. So launching a new subagent helps identify those things, feeds back into the original agent, and they keep iterating until they have a solid plan that a fresh LLM session can work from. So that's what I'm doing. I'm having the planning guidance document guide its process. I'm restating the goal that we want to rebase or reimplement each needed commit for this project, the ones authored by Basil, that's me, on the latest from upstream, and I'm pointing out that the upstream is the anomaly co-repo, not my personal like GitHub fork of it. So I hope that's enough information to help it carry on. Let's see. Reading the document, great. Okay. Looking through the Git history, that's perfect. And hopefully now it's going to start thinking about the actual plan. And the first stage is consulting with a subagent, sort of validating what it intends to do. Seems like GPT is a little slow today. I'm using OpenAI's GPT endpoint right now through the OpenAI subscription. And it does seem to be quite slow at this moment. Like it's normally slow. GPT is known for being slow, but this is worse than usual. So I think we'll let this pause. I'll check up on it pretty soon, but for now, let's move on to the image to maze project. This is the image to maze project. During the last session, the way we found out that we messed up OpenCode was we tried to resume this session and found out that it couldn't find the session. The reason it couldn't find this session is because the old commit of OpenCode stored the sessions in a file system, and the version we had been working from stored all of the sessions in a SQLite database. So when we tried to resume this session, we were using a version of OpenCode based on the old commit, and the session wasn't on the file system, so it couldn't find it, and it looked like it was gone. But now that we fixed OpenCode, it has the whole session here, which is great, because this is the one that's been running for a long time. We've done a lot of different things, and it's a really great example of the Context Bonsai plugin doing what it was intended to do. And right now we're at 17% context, which is fantastic. 67,000 tokens. That seems like more than 17%. That seems like 40 or 50%. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, right. So this image to maze project, we feed the program an image, and the program attempts to generate a maze that looks like the image. So we've been trying to fine tune things to have it work with grayscale images. We've also been experimenting with different methods of generating the actual maze. So right now, the most recent one is we have a grayscale picture of a banana. I wonder if I can find that in here. Well, maybe I can't. Oh, wait. Hello. There we go. So this was our source image. This is the maze that came out, and it's not great. We've been experimenting with how it deals with the density in relation to light and dark areas, and like where the cutoff is for where there shouldn't be any maze. And here, the cutoff itself looks fine, but the density gradients need some help. You can't really make out the full details. You can't really understand that this is a banana. Overall, it needs a lot more density to be able to make out all of the details here. So I'm going to chat with the image to maze about that. And actually, what I really want, instead of iterating over and over and trying different things, I want it to create a UI for me with some sliders, and I should be able to move some sliders around and adjust things to get it to update the maze as I move the sliders, and then I can sort of fine tune per each image because every image is going to be different. Some images are going to have the subject being in the highlight area and the background being in the low light area, and other ones it's going to be flipped around, and the level or tone of grayscale is going to be different for each one of them. So we're going to kind of need sliders. And once we get to that point and we can see that we can take a variety of images and make something that kind of looks like the images, maybe we can get to the point where it can auto-tune itself and figure out how to get the best match between a maze and the original image. Oh yeah. And let's see, I had it read the image itself, and it's, well, I had it read this maze, and it's outlining some stuff that it understands about it. And it's talking about something we dealt with on a much earlier version of image to maze. The thing that it's talking about is that right now the maze is a series of lines instead of a series of corridors that where you walk down the path between the corridors. There was a time when I wanted it to create it looking like corridors, but it was going to take some time to get there, and it was less interesting than dealing with the other things. So I kind of paused that corridor track, but it still is referencing that. So I'm going to tell it to forget about all of that stuff and to prune messages about that. This is another strong point. Like, one of the reasons I made Context Bonsai was that sometimes there's something in your context that keeps affecting its current behavior and you don't want it to. It's an old thing that you don't care about anymore, or it can even be something damaging. Like, it read a file that causes it to, I don't know, behave in ways that you don't want it to. Maybe the file had old instructions or from before, or maybe it was sort of incomplete and the LLM makes wrong assumptions based on it. Something can happen where something slips into the context and it continuously causes it to be wrong. This is sort of an example of that. So I'm going to have it take that out of its context. Let's see what it does here. Pruning. Okay, so it selected the beginning message and the end message. Oh, it's selecting way too much. It's selected, so the end one was the one that I just sent, and I didn't want it to forget that. Oh, I bet it did that because it mentioned corridor walls at all. The first attempt failed because there were incomplete tool calls that would produce malformed history. Interesting. Second attempt succeeded and archived 44 message larger span than intended, so only the second prune actually changed context. Let's see what the two pattern is. The two pattern is still that one. Okay, well, I think it pruned way too much. Let's see if it understands what we were doing most recently. Yeah, that's pretty old. Okay. Um, and it's going to be, okay, this is interesting. I think it might be hard to get it to restore the context. Maybe not. It depends. So we've gone through several iterations of the plugin. The plugin has operated slightly different as we're trying to pull functionality or dependencies out of OpenCode, or we want to make as few changes to OpenCode, the core itself, as possible. So we've sort of modified how the plugin works at various times. And at one point, when it calls the retrieve tool to bring context back into the bring messages back into the active context, it would append all of the messages as like a tool call result. When you called retrieve, the result of the retrieve was a big message that had all of the message you previously sent. And if that's still what happened, then if I retrieve it again, we're not going to be able to selectively prune parts of it. We would have to prune, it's only one message, so it would prune that entire tool call result and those messages would be gone again, which means we would have to retrieve it and produce sort of new messages in the context to keep things that we want to keep, and then reprune that context back out, reprune the tool call back out. Or the other way it might work that it was at some point, I just don't remember which one the most recent is, it would go to the message history, like the stored actual session that we're having, and it marks messages as archived. And then when you retrieve it, it just unmarks the archived. So when the LLM sees it, the messages are just back in their original position as individual messages. So let's see what happens. It's retrieving the message. Tried it, but only one message was restored from the archive. Um, so it's saying it can use the exact archive metadata for that prune block, the one that archived 44 messages, and target the correct anchor. I have a feeling it's sort of hallucinating and making assumptions about this. The internal record created when a prune succeeds. It includes the archived range boundaries, summary, index terms, yada, yada, yada. It needs the right anchor from that record. Okay. Let me see. So the prune, when the prune tool call runs, it creates a summary, it creates index terms, but the tool itself creates a tool call result, and within that tool call result, it puts in there the message ID that it needs to be able to retrieve back the messages that were archived in that tool call. Okay. And it seems not to be working. This is interesting. I tried the end message ID too. Okay. Okay, it's saying the tool call result does not tell it what message it can retrieve it with. I kind of don't believe it, and I'm going to go over here to the Context Bonsai plugin window and do OpenCode dev continue. I'm using the plugin in a session, and it's claiming it does not see a message ID. It's claiming the tool call results does not indicate which message ID to use if it needs to retrieve. Okay, so this LLM is going to do that research for us. Meanwhile, let's go back to the actual OpenCode plan. And it says it created a plan. This time, I'm going to read this carefully and not just do pure vibe coding. Here's our plan. Oh, it has 3 different stories. Freeze commit, replay required runtime changes, and then replay required docs and finalize promotion packet. Key choices baked into the plan. The baseline is pinned to upstream dev anomaly co. Right, that's good. Not origin dev. Okay. Basal scope is explicit via identity map of that guy. Required commit classification is deterministic, already in upstream. Required drop scope tags, runtime state docs only. Required commit classification is deterministic. Okay, yep. Replay method gate is explicit. Cherry pick -x versus minimal reimplementation. Okay, so I very explicitly told it should cherry pick or re-implement, and rather than keeping that as 2 options as it moves in through this plan, it just picked only one and said this is the way to do it. But when the LLM runs into a merge conflict, it does a very, very bad job of resolving that merge conflict. It's not to be trusted. And I tend to set up these plans and let it execute the whole thing. And I don't trust that it's going to do this correctly. Oh, I spelled stuff wrong. Oh well. Let's see. Okay. I'm giving it that so it can go on and redo things, but I'm going to keep going through these list of choices. Replay, oh right, yeah, replay. Rerun safety avoids destructive cleanup when replay work tree is dirty. I want to understand what it means by that. Rerun safety. Okay, copied that. Deprecated transform hook in story stays excluded, sure. promotion packet is required at the end of the exact source replay mapping. Why? I didn't ask for that. Okay, it's fixing up the plan a little bit. I hope it goes through and revalidates, but I know it didn't. Explain what you mean by that. And I'm also wanting to read what it said about its recent change. Good. It added a hard rule of no mechanical conflict fixes. Conflict resolution must be checked against source intent and functionality. Great. Added acceptance criterion requiring per commit evidence of method used plus equivalence. Acceptance criterion. Okay, good. The acceptance criterion is going to help a lot because it's going to be a fresh LLM subagent in our orchestration framework. When we implement plans, the orchestrator asks a developer to do stuff and the developer finishes it. Then the orchestrator asks a reviewer to review the work that the orchestrator did and use the original plans to make sure that the work conforms to the plans that we made. And because it's a fresh LLM, it doesn't have the problem that LLMs tend to have of thinking it did the right thing. And if you ask, did you do the right thing? It'll just say, yes, I did the things you asked, even when it didn't. When it's a fresh subagent, it tends to do much, much better at that. And because it put that as an acceptance criteria, our reviewer will catch that and see if it was done correctly. And our judge also will not just dismiss any reviewer complaints. The judge will see the reviewer complaint, it will see the criteria in the document, and it will approve that this does need to be revised, and it loops back around and gets to the developer so it fixes it again. So that's great. Updated step-by-step tasks to require the intent functionality verification for each commit before moving on. Yep, okay. Okay, good. So now once it does the revalidation loop for its most recent changes, and I expect there's going to be nothing needed to change, it'll be ready to orchestrate the change. In the meantime, let's see what our research guy says. Based on the code, a successful prune absolutely does indicate the message to use for retrieve. I'm also going to do something else. I'm going to have this LLM look at the other session and figure out, I'm going to have it read the actual tool call result, and I'm going to have this LLM tell me what happened in the other tool call result. So to do that, I need this title. That's going to let this other session find that, is going to let this other LLM find that session. Oh. So it's showing me the exact phrase that the tool call says. It says archived from, no, it says archived some number of messages from this pattern to the from ID, resolved to from ID. What is it? This is a very confusing message if that's what the plugin says. Archived 44 messages from pattern, whatever it said the from pattern is, whatever, and the pattern is what we said in the messages. The way it identifies the message range is it takes whatever that message says in it, or a segment of it, and it identifies a separate message, like a from message and a to message. It gets substrings out of that, and it says use these patterns to find the messages and archive the things between them. So it says message 44, message from pattern, blah, and then parentheses, resolved to, and it gives a message ID of, oh, I see. So the pattern that it gave resolved to a message ID. Okay. And then it says to again, so resolved to message ID, to pattern, and it gives a to pattern resolved to. Okay, that is so confusing. This needs to be fixed. So let's create a plan to fix that. Then it depends. Summary, index terms. So the retrieve anchor ID is the value shown as resolved to resolved from ID, the first resolved ID. Okay. We are going to need to fix that, but before I do, so something like, let me see. Whoa, go away. That thing always shows up, and I never want it to at any time. And then it says to press escape to get rid of it, but it takes like, it doesn't just go away when you press escape. I don't know what is actually making it go away, but it takes a lot of messing around to get that dialog to go away. That's something in OpenCode that's been driving me nuts. Okay, let's go back to the prune tool call. Okay. No, we can't see all of that in the UI element that shows up. So let's see. It says archived 44 messages. Okay. Let's see if it can tell me whether or not it sees that. Yes, it sees that. Okay. Okay, and it says it did, and it restored one message, not the full 44. How many words estimated are in that message? "30 words." Okay, we might have a bug in the plugin now. Let's see. Oh, come on. Let me copy. Oh, okay. All right, OpenCode. I'm going to have to fix that eventually because it's way too disruptive when it does that. All right, there we go. Actually, I want to copy more than that. Let's make it like this. Okay, there we go. Make big. And go back over here. Here's the what the other element is saying. Based on this, I think there's a bug. Oh. I might also want to see, so it might have just marked those messages as unarchived, so they just show up in the context and they just look like they originally did. There's nothing to indicate that they were pruned and removed. So I'm going to ask it to tell me the message immediately after the from pattern. So let's grab its from pattern. Here we go. Nope, that was the one that didn't work. This is the one that did work. Okay, actually, I think the messages were restored correctly and that there's not a bug. There's just clarification needed in the tool so that it understands what's happening here. Because I do think that that is the next message that was originally pruned away. Uh, so now I'm asking it how many messages it sees about the corridors conversation. Multiple corridors related messages, again, not zero. Okay, good to know. So we have some additional tuning to help the LLM understand what's happening when retrieve is called. And I also want to make that tool call result from prune way nicer. It's so bad right now. Okay. Okay, now I'm asking it to do multiple prunes to selectively eliminate the corridor conversations, but keep all of the other stuff we did. Okay. Yep, I think it's working correctly now, but I want to go here. Um, let me just give it a broader range of messages instead of the ones I've selected. Oh, it's still saying it pruned 44 messages. Oh boy. Let's go and pick something that it should not have pruned, that it looked like originally it did prune too much of. Um, oh yeah, there's a whole thing where it did stuff. This. Do you see a message that includes this? Yeah. Oh, it still says it can't see that message. This is interesting. Do you have any historical prune tool calls that look like it may have talked about the mask threshold? So here is where it should look at the tool calls and the summaries and the key terms and see if anything looks like it would have had that. Okay. Retrieve that. It has retrieved that. Okay. Now, do you see the mask threshold stuff? And our context usage jumped up a bit. I think it was 17% before we did that, and now it's 21%. And now it can see it. Okay, so there was some point in the process where it pruned away that piece, and I understand why. The instructions that this has for pruning things is that when you complete a task and then you move on to something different, it's a good idea to prune away that stuff that you were doing because it's no longer relevant to the next task. And I did have it do a whole bunch of stuff up here. Let's see. This. What was I doing here? Oh, right. So one of the things that happened in the previous session was I was streaming and running a build process. The build process consumed all the memory and caused the entire machine to slow down. I couldn't even move my cursor around. And something that happens is as I work with all of the agents, I launch them and close them. There's something that's leaking processes all over the place, actually. Multiple things are leaking. One of them was this biome LSP proxy. OpenCode is starting these LSP servers and not closing them, which may be because I'm not using a stable version of OpenCode. This is some random commit off the dev branch. But that was one of the big things that was causing my system to halt. It was causing the stream to get messed up. So I had it sort of investigating that because many of these were coming from this session, and I was wondering if the LLM itself started up these, but it didn't. It did some investigation and found that OpenCode itself launched them. So when it was doing this, that's probably when it pruned away the conversations that I'm now wanting to have. Okay, so now I want to prune away that stuff. Oh, actually, I think it already is pruned away. I don't remember if I retrieved back the 44 messages or if they're gone. Oops. So I think I was wrong about it pruning too much. It was just that there were other messages that I didn't know were pruned away. They mostly remained pruned. Okay. Do you see messages about investigating process leaks? We're completely done with that. Prune those away. And hopefully our work to rebase OpenCode on the latest dev will fix that problem. Oh, where's our other window? Oh, did I? Oh, this is the image maze thing, that's why. Okay. We did several things in the image to maze project before the process leak investigation. Retrieve. Well, let me ask it if it can summarize things from those prune summaries. Okay, while that's looking, I'm going to check back on our OpenCode stuff. I don't want to continue the plugin conversation yet. I want to get a better handle on what's going on over there. Okay, so it did redo the validation after it made changes. Actually, oh shoot, there was a, oops, that's not what I intended to do. There was a thing I wanted to ask it about. Rerun this. Okay, let's remove that and repaste it. Before removing or recreating the replay worktree, the plan now checks if that worktree has uncommitted changes. If it's dirty, the flow does not delete it automatically. Instead, it recreates a safety branch in the worktree and stops, so you can decide how to proceed. Okay. This is the guard in story 2. If not empty, create Bazel minimal runtime replay safety timestamp and exit only remove or recreate the worktree when it is clean or absent. Cool. Yep. All right. Now the other thing, does the plan involve a git fetch? So you're actually rebasing on the latest upstream. Yes, okay, good. Git fetch all prune. Oh, I'm not familiar with prune. Remove stale tracking refs from your local repo. If upstream deleted burn. Oh, okay. That's fine. Okay. That looks good. I definitely still want to review the plan, so I need that path. Here we go. There's the 3 stories in the thing, but I want the larger epic. I think I have it in here. Epic. Yeah, that's it. So let's go over here. Vim. Cool. We'll get back to this. Let's check on the image to maze. Based on the prune summaries, here's what we completed before the process leak thread. We discussed and archived an early visual direction for the corridor wall stuff. Yep. Created and validated true wall geometry. That's old too. Okay. Created and tested outputs on banana imagery and then shifted focus to the Poisson density controls. Yeah. Planned and implemented the invert density. Planned and implemented the hard dark value exclusion flow. Great. We rendered new banana outputs. Okay, good. All right. Um, um, Okay. Um, so I'm telling it I want the UI so I can move sliders and check boxes for changing all of these things. And now I've asked it to outline all of the values we might want to change in this UI. Oh, here we go. That was nice. Great. We can pick the method. Um, image/grid. It lets us pick the file. That's great. It lets us invert the density. It lets us adjust the mask floor and the mask threshold. Um, it lets us adjust the Poisson sampling numbers. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is great. This is fantastic. We can set our own seed, hit a regenerate button. Render controls theme, ink. Oh yeah, this thing has a theming thing in it, but we've only been using one called ink, I think. Overlay white paths. I don't know what that does. Oh, no, I don't. Oh, that's when at one point we took the original image and we inverted it and overlaid the paths on top of the image. So that lets us do that. It lets us turn on the background image. Good. We can show the legend or not. I don't know what that would have, but. And then export format, download maze, download rendered image. Okay. Um, okay, so yeah, I'm telling it to use that planning guidance doc to make a plan, and I've asked it what questions it has for me before it starts that plan. Where should the UI live? In this repo, yeah. Should live in this repo. Runtime model, browser only versus local backend process, invoking CLI commands. Let me think about this. So currently it's implemented as a CLI. What language was this in? I've probably already asked it and it gave me an answer, but I don't remember. TypeScript with bun. Ah, so this could all run in a browser, right? Actually, I do think that might have been in the very original plan from the beginning, because my idea was it's a fun little app that I can put on there as a single page web app that people can play with. Yeah, cool. So technically feasible with refactoring around I/O and rendering adapters. Great, that's what I want. Okay, back to the questions. Why isn't it scrolling? There we go. UI lives in this repo. Runtime is in this browser. Oh, in a browser. In browser. Preview target real-time preview for, let's do Poisson MST only to start, but we will do the others. Preview target. That's what I just did, right? Yep. Performance expectation feels live at what grid sizes? Um, just do your best at all sizes. Okay. Output fidelity. Preview can be lower quality than export. Yes, because it is entirely possible. No, actually, it shouldn't matter because it's generating SVGs. The SVGs get converted into a PNG, and that's super quick. Well, quick-ish. I think. Okay, sure. Let me think. So the trade-off here is the more features we put into the plan here, the longer it's going to take to complete. The more likely it is to kind of go off the rails. And the more likely it is that later on we'll just decide, oh, that was completely wasted effort. We shouldn't have done that in the first place. Which is already what's happening with the Context Bonsai plugin. We started with OpenCode and we tried to figure out what are the bare minimum changes we need to make our idea work. And then we implemented those changes in OpenCode. Then we went and created the Context Bonsai plugin. We got it working and it actually did use all of those changes. But then we refined and refined and refined the plugin to reduce the number of changes we actually needed. So it does turn out that there were things we needed that we didn't, because our idea was kind of too big. We included things like if we're going to have plugins using hooks that adjust messages, then we don't want other plugins to start stomping on each other. So we need each plugin to have a plugin ID stamped on its fields in its own metadata. And we're just not going to use that because it's not necessary for the bare plugin. So we got rid of it and we didn't need it, which required additional work to undo our dependence on that. So every time you do extra feature, it kind of adds that risk. I'm going to say no for now. We can always change that later. Okay, persistence should controls present preset save load configs. Let's do session only for now. Primary users, just you local power users, broader users needing onboarding. Just me as the user for now. MVP boundary, must have now sliders and checkboxes in live preview and export. Nice to have later history, compare mode. So sliders, checkboxes, live preview. Okay. So I've given it my feedback to all of its questions, and hopefully now it will go on to that cycle of planning the changes. Okay, so it has delegated Control X down view subagents. Nope, that's not the subagent I want. Oh, here we go. What is it asking? It's wanting to read a project. Oh, we tried to fix this before. For some reason, it's still looking in the wrong place for this document. Let's reject that. Please tell me the exact file in your context that is telling you to look there. Oh, and I bet that's happening in this planning subagent. Oh, now it's reading the right location. Interesting. Okay, well, it's off doing stuff. Back to Context Bonsai stuff. Oh, right, the OpenCode plan for rebasing. I'm going to have to read this plan carefully to make sure it's not going to mess up in the same way that it did last time. And in the OpenCode side, we need the tool to be better. All right. So the tool got confused two ways. First, it picked the wrong message ID to retrieve. Then once it retrieved, it believed it only restored one message, but actually all the messages were restored. First, we definitely need to fix that messages from pattern resolved to resolved to. There are entirely many two. In this, we need to be clear that it let's suggest actually I think it will be clearer if we say from pattern string. Let me change the quotes. I don't know if it actually understands. Oh man, arrow keys somehow broke in OpenCode. It won't let me move the cursor one position anymore. From pattern string to pattern string which are messages, message ID, message 123 to message 456. There. And I think I also want to say these messages can be retrieved using Context Bonsai retrieve message 123. Okay, so that part's going to be clearer there. We also need to think about the tool card. So the LLM understands the tool call result is one message, but the pruned messages will actually be in the context. Restored in the context in their original positions. I also want to make sure that that retrieve tool call says how many messages were retrieved so that, again, it's not going to get confused. Stop. I really hate when I'm chatting with it and I say we're going to need to do these things and I'm not telling it to make the changes. It just assumes that it should go and do those things. It drives me freaking nuts. Okay. We're chatting. Once we are in alignment, then you will make a plan using a specific procedure, and only once that plan is validated will any implementation happen, but it won't be directly by you. Okay, now I think I told it we need to think about more stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's see. When you said we need to think about the tool card, that implies that this is not just a string tweak, it's behavior design across prune result wording, retrieve result wording, and how the transformed context slash cards communicate what actually happened. So before planning, we should look at the intended model-facing semantics. Yes. Prune result should explicitly say the anchor ID to use for retrieve, and that anchor ID is the first resolved message ID. Yes. Retrieve result should explicitly say tool output is a status summary. Archived messages are restored in place in the conversation history. Yes. Placeholder card text should reinforce pruned anchor end uses anchor for anchor ID. Retrieval restores full range visibility, not one message object only. Yes. If that framing matches your intent, I'll create a formal story plan with validation loop exactly for this scope and then orchestrate implementation. Yes. That is the intention. Don't create a full plan yet. Instead, look at the tool cards, look at the code. Let me see your suggestions. Okay. That's a big thing we'll have to get to eventually. Let's check on image to maze. That's still doing the planning cycle. Great. Okay, well, while... Oh, it is asking for permission again. That's not an external directory. Oh, it is an external directory. Yes, allow. I'm a little bit concerned that it is looking in that the OpenCode directory. We want as few changes to OpenCode as possible, and I'm wondering why the things I asked it to look at cause it to go look at OpenCode. I'm going to allow it once for now, but I do want to ask it why the heck it thinks it needs to look there. Allow again. Ooh, something else that's different in OpenCode is I used to have to first say allow, and then it asks me again to accept what I just told it, and I hit accept again. But now it's only asking once for each time. After looking at both the plugin code and the UI toolcard behavior, your diagnosis is right. Here's what's happening now. Prune result is technically explicit, but cognitively noisy. Uses pattern, resolve to. Retrieve result can be misleading. It says restored some number of messages. Message count is computed from the currently loaded message list, which may only include the anchor placeholder and model visible context, even though clearing archive metadata makes the full range appear in its original positions via transform reversal. I think it's wrong about this. It's a little bit unclear what it's saying, so I'm going to chat about it with this right here, because that's important. Also, tool cards in OpenCode are generic renderers. They display tool output text as is, not semantic post-processing for Bonsai specific meaning, so wording needs to carry the semantics. Okay, this is why it was going and looking in OpenCode to understand the tool cards. Wording needs to carry the semantics. post-processing for, so wording, that's another thing I want to ask it what it means here. Sometimes the LLMs output stuff in some really dense language or obscure. Sometimes they're way overly verbose. Sometimes they're way too dense. And this is one of the parts where it's just way too dense. I don't know what the heck it's talking about here. Okay, my suggestions. Prune success message should replace the current phrase to archive message range from pattern to pattern, resolved to messages anchor ID through end ID. Great. To restore this message range, call Context Bonsai retrieve with anchor ID, anchor ID. Yes, that is perfect. Keep summary / index below it. Huh? Oh yeah, the summary terms and the index terms when it prunes. Yes, that's correct. Retrieve success message. Remove misleading count emphasis. Archive marker cleared for anchor ID. Range end ID. All messages in that archived range are now visible again in the original positions in conversational context. Yes. Optionally, this tool output is a status confirmation, not the restored message list itself. Yeah, I think that's right. Prompt / tool guidance edition. In source prompt TS, add a short retrieve semantics section. Okay, so this is the tool card it's talking about. Use anchor ID from prune results. Yes, use the anchor ID from the thing. Or from the placeholder. Yes. Retrieve restores full range visibility in context. Tool output is confirmation text. Yep, that sounds good. Placeholder / card support. It's misunderstanding what card means. Tool cards are the little pieces of information that comes along with the tool that tell the LLM what the tool does. Not metadata, it's the okay. Tool definition metadata is what it calls it. Okay. Description args guidance. Yeah. So the right places to improve are those. Yes. Given your intents, my updated recommendations. Okay. Description should explicitly say it returns a retrieve anchor. Success text should explicitly instruct use that with that. Yep. Retrieve tool card anchor ID description should say use the prune results anchor / resolved start. Anchor / resolved start message ID. Oh boy, this doesn't let me. There. Okay, what else? Success text should avoid implying only one message. Yeah, that's true. Adds short retrieve block semantics in that prune returns anchor ID, retrieve restores full range and original positions, and the tool output is a confirmation text. Yep. Okay. Its prune description archives a message range resolved from patterns and returns the anchor message ID required for retrieval. That's good. The prune success line should say archived from pattern blah to pattern blah, which resolved to messages blah through blah. That is exactly good. And use Context Bonsai retrieve with anchor ID blah to restore this message. That's also good. I do want to make it clear that this should not be hard-coded unless it's hard-coded like that in other places. I want that to fill in the tool name like from the code. Retrieve anchor ID arg description. Anchor message returned by Context Bonsai prune. The first resolved message in the archived range. Retrieve anchor. Oh, the description of the argument. Yes, anchor message ID returned by. So here it's calling it an anchor message. There it also does. Okay, good. Retrieve success line. Archive cleared for anchor that, range end that. Okay, that seems fine. All messages in that archived range are now restored in the original positions in the conversation context. Good. Okay. Did I copy a piece of text out? Yes. I don't want that hard-coded unless that's already how this, what did it call it? Something metadata. Tool definition metadata. Defined in a variable somewhere, right? Okay, good. It's reading its own code to see how it talks about itself, if it like references variables that talk about its own name. And no, it looks like this is now going to be part of the plan where we're going to add variables to hold the names of the tool. Okay, let's make that a separate commit. Well, creates that as a separate story, I think. Does the constants as a separate story. How many places in the code will this affect in the current code? Whew, a lot. A lot. Okay. No, let's eliminate that from the plan. We'll use the hard-coded names for now, and maybe someday we'll change that. Follow the planning guidance timely doc to build the plan. Preparing patch. What is it trying to patch? That's a little bit concerning. It does that when it's about to edit a file. Oops. Oh, it just created a whole new file. Okay, that's fine. So it created a file and it's going to go through the process of validating it, which it already is. It's doing it. Okay, good. Let's see. Image to maze is still planning the UI. Okay, that's fine. So then while both of those are running, now we can finally get to the rebase plan and make sure everything looks good and clean. User gamut. I love the first one. So it's building the user model, which identifies who the users are and what those users need. And the very first one is fork maintainers minimizing drift from anomaly code while preserving project-specific behavior. It's exactly right, because that's me. I will have to maintain this fork ongoing until OpenCode decides to merge whatever changes are needed for this plugin. Release operators who need deterministic replay on a clean upstream baseline. That's also me. Plugin runtime maintainers protecting Bonsai required a behavior only. Yep, that's also me and describes me perfectly. Reviewers who require commit level traceability and low risk change sets. That would be the anomaly code people. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to minimize the size of the review that I might eventually ask them to commit. The fewer things, the simpler, the more clear about what's happening and why it needs to happen, the better. User needs. Also, I want to point out this user gamut concept is defined in the planning guidance doc, and it is trying to see who these changes are intended for, and it's really cool that it identified me, but it also identified the upstream maintainers that I'm going to be submitting reviews to. I like that a lot. User needs clear, auditable definition of which Bazel commits are still needed versus obsolete. Yes. Deterministic replay flow from upstream dev without fallback to stale local refs. Yes. That's what went wrong last time. Hard exclusion of out-of-scope experiments and accidental local state mutations. Yep, that's great. Fast verification that replayed branch preserves required runtime behavior. Sure, yep, good, good, good. Ambiguities from the user model. Some Bazel commits are documentation or state artifacts versus runtime requirements. That's true. We have been committing our plans as we implement them. And I've been planning at the very end to just do something that strips out all of those documents from our commits. Some changes may already exist in upstream or may be superseded by newer local fixes. Let's see. That is very true. It's also true that some upstream changes completely conflict and make it impossible to continue, and we'll have to figure out a new plan, but I don't know yet. Preserve original commit granularity where safe, but allow minimal reimplementation when cherry-pick scope is mixed. Yep, yep, yep. Good stuff. Stories. Story 1, freeze commit scope and replay rules. Build authoritative list of Bazel authored commits after divergence and classify each as required, drop, or already upstream with evidence and replay method. Cool. And it points to the implementation plan. I won't read the low level one. I'm going to trust that. Replay required runtimes changes on fresh upstream rebase. Create isolated work tree from the latest upstream dev and replay only required upstream changes via cherry pick or minimal reimplementation. Yes, that's correct. Replay required docs and finalize promotion packet. Oh yeah, it had extra stuff that I didn't want. Replay only required docs, plan artifacts, run final validation, and produce a promotion ready evidence packet. It said more about this promotion packet in the actual session. I might want to go back and look at that. Oh, this doesn't let me search. Right. Does this thing search? I'm going to have to learn how to search through OpenCode's context. It's a constant issue. Okay, it's too far back. I'm not sure what this promotion packet thing did, so I'm just going to look at the low-level plan here, and I'm also going to look at the low-level plan for number 2. So I'm going to copy the base of the path here, then Oh, it didn't copy everything I needed. Copy. Okay, first let's look at story 2. Create a fresh isolated work tree from the latest upstream dev, then replay only basal commits classified as required and runtime impacting. Prefer cherry pick -x for clean in-scope commits, otherwise re-implement in minimal hunks and reference source SHAs. Ooh, yeah, reference the source SHA, that's perfect. Okay, user model and gamut, I'm going to skip those because they were good in the other one. They should be good here. Design implementations, I don't need to read all of that. Acceptance criteria. New replay worktree branch is created from the latest upstream dev. All required runtime commits from story 1 are replayed with source mapping. Yes. For each replayed commit, notes record whether approach was cherry pick and resolve or re-implement, plus intent functionality equivalence evidence. Cool. No drop or excluded commits are replayed. All right. And the target runtime validations pass. Okay. I might want to have this go and poke into the plugin as part of the verification of this, what it chooses to keep and what it chooses to drop. In fact, I'm definitely going to have it do that. We're going to add to story 1. That's the one where it picks what to keep and what to drop. We're going to modify that to make it clear that the reviewer subagent, well, no, we're just going to do it here. During the planning, we're going to have it launch a new subagent to look at the thing. Oh, yeah, no, because it hasn't selected yet. That's part of the story. I think I need an extra step at the end of story 1 to launch a subagent and look at the things that it chose as keep and drop and go look at the original plugin and make sure that it is keeping and dropping appropriate things. No drop or excluded commits are replayed. Yep. Targeted runtime validations pass. Okay. Or maybe I'll just put a validation stage. Nope, it can't do that yet in story 3. Oh, yeah, it can. As part of story 2, I can have it run an end-to-end test to make sure Context Bonsai works. That's probably good enough. Probably even better. Okay, it's referencing a bunch of stuff. New files to create. Sure. Relevant documentation. All right. And then the implementation plan. Fetch, prune remotes, and capture upstream baseline SHA. Yep. Create rollback, bookmark, branch, and isolated work tree from upstream. Yes. Install dependencies in the replay work tree before test type check build. Hopefully it doesn't need to change any dependencies, but it is possible that upstream has added new dependencies or updated some of its existing dependencies. So that actually is a great step. Before rerun cleanup, check work tree status. If dirty, create a safety branch in that work tree and stop for explicit rerun confirmation. Nice, nice. Instead of force removing. Yep. Okay. Replay required commits. Yep. Record source replay mapping after each commit. Records. Yeah, record the mapping. Yep. And then integration. Run focused checks after each logical replay group. Testing and validation. I'm going to ask it what its idea of this phrase is. This looks like something it assumes a fresh LLM is going to just understand how to do. I don't know that it will. Phase 4, run targeted tests, type check, build, and exclusion. Okay, and here's the step-by-step tasks. Let's see. Oh, it does not. Yeah, it doesn't say specifically what these focused checks are. Oh, okay. Maybe this is it, where it just verifies that the replayed result preserves both the intent and the functionality. Okay, so it's just using like LLM's own reasoning to check and make sure that's fine. Run targeted validations and capture results. That's this one. Okay. Okay. So I think we want another step in story 1 that uses a subagent with instructions to look at the keep drop commit list and also inspects the plugin source code to make sure that we are keeping dropping the correct functionality. The directory is real path here. This. Now, unfortunately, this is going to put a hiccup in the steps because OpenCode's going to ask me for permission to access that directory. And unfortunately, there is no way to configure per directory permissions and tell it, in this project, you're allowed to access this other directory. There's just no way to do that in OpenCode. So it's going to pause at that step and ask for permission. But I'd rather pause there and take the extra time instead of risking it. Okay, while that's doing that, I'm going to go take a look at the third story. Here, replay only required Basil authored documentation and planning artifacts that are still needed. Yep. What's the difference between 3 and 2 then? I thought that what. Okay, what's 2? 2. Create a fresh work tree. Oh. Re-implement the hunks. Yeah, so this one it's re-implementing stuff. So then what the heck, what's the difference? Replay required. Oh, docs and finalization. Okay, replay only required. Okay, so it's separating the documentation commits from the functionality commits. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, great. I think I'm just going to trust that one then. That's. Oh, I wanted to see this promotion. Oops. What have I done? Undo everything and search for promotion. Final handoff report. Rate promotion packet with final branch delta summary. Okay, that's fine. It's just going to summarize everything it did and why it did it and all of that stuff. Okay, I'm happy with that. Great call, added explicitly to story 1. Okay, let's look at it, the actual changes it made. Add an adversarial plugin parity check. A subagent must review the keep drop classification against the Bonsai plugin runtime behavior in there. Subagent plugin parity review confirms blah. Yep, it's on the checkbox. Okay, launch a subagent. Okay, as an explicit step. Cool. All right. I'm wondering if that's actually best left as a reviewer step instead of a developer step. No, I think we're fine. I think we're fine here. and it's offering to rerun new validation for this plan, which is awesome. It would have been even better if it just did it automatically. Uh, let's go ahead and do it. I'll be interested in seeing if it does pick up anything. I don't expect it to. And I would be happy with just continuing, but I am just curious if it will find anything. Yes, redo a validation loop. Okay, that planning was a little bit easier to read than I expected. That's nice. Oh, wow. This is still, the image to maze project is still planning the UI. It has done 119 tool calls, which is crazy. It never asked me. Oh, yeah, it did. It's putting all the UI in the browser. It didn't ask me specifics like, is this going to be React or some framework? And that's interesting. We'll see what it comes back with. Oh, right. We're not going to get into the other side projects this time. I have a bunch lined up that we can eventually get to, but we never got to the place where we had all of our models doing stuff and just not needing any more interaction, so we didn't get to these other side projects. But we do still have 3 additional side projects that I'm prepared to dig into on other streams, but this stream has already gone long enough. The OpenCode rebase thing is happening. What's happening with the plugin? Okay. It has created the plan for the prune stuff. I'm going to take a peek at that. Clarify Bonsai prune retrieve model facing messaging so the LLM reliably uses the correct anchor ID and correctly understands that retrieval restores the archive range in place in conversation context. LLM user model is LLM agents managing long sessions where prune retrieve operations are frequent. Yep. Operators reviewing tool outputs and expecting unambiguous recovery instructions. Sure. Maintainers debugging retrieval mistakes caused by ambiguous overloaded status text. Yeah, that's exactly. User needs gamut. Oh, it did not include the users who are like not developers. Well, it did as far as reviewing tool outputs, but in general, users shouldn't have to even think about it a lot. It should just work. But that's fine that it didn't include that. User needs gamut. Prune success output must clearly identify the single anchor ID. Yep. Retrieve success output must distinguish status text from restored in context message. Yep. Prompt guidance should reinforce the intended operational semantics to reduce the repeated model mistakes. Yeah. Ambiguities. Placeholder retrieval hint policy is resolved for this story. Add a concise retrieval hint in both placeholder construction paths to avoid copy drift. Placeholder both. What is this talking about? I'm gonna ask the LLM about this. What does this mean? Okay, get back to this. I don't need to look up these references. Acceptance criteria. Prune success message explicitly states resolved. Yep, that's right. Retrieved anchor ID description explicitly states it should be the anchor returned by the prune. Yes. Retrieve success message explicitly states the restoration is in the original context and positions and that the tool output is the confirmation and status. The prompt guidance adds concise retrieve semantics for anchor usage and restoration behavior. Placeholder text includes concise retrieval hint in both the plugin transform and the pure transform paths. What? Placeholder text. Oh, yeah. When it prunes, it leaves behind a placeholder that says something was pruned here. Concise retrieval hint both in plugin transform and pure transform paths. Yeah, I want to know what these 2 paths are talking about. I think it's talking about code paths, but I don't know what plugin transform versus pure transform mean here. So I'm going to ask it about that. Existing hard-coded tool names remain unchanged. Sure. Tests are updated for all changed user model facing strings. I don't like having raw strings in unit tests, but these LLMs do that all the time. I'm not going to fight it here. Implementation tasks. Update prune success message wording. Oh, yeah, I don't need to review every task. Testing strategy, full suite regression, run bun test. I'm not sure bun test is how you do it in this package. Let me make sure it verifies that as well. Here's the answer to our previous question. Let me paste in the other thing that I'm going to ask about so I don't forget. Okay, retrieval hint in both placeholder construction paths. In that plan section, we made a design decision. We added a retrieval hint to the placeholder. We should add it in both places that generate placeholder text, index.txt and transform.ts. Yeah, so it is two code paths, but why are there two code paths? Why are we producing this placeholder in two different places? What's going on here? Avoid copy drift, where one path says one thing and one says the other. So yeah, we wouldn't want copy drift, but there shouldn't even be an opportunity for that in the first place, ideally. So I want to dig into that and find out if it's necessary or if this was the classic case of an LLM like having duplicate implementations when it shouldn't. And this part, system reminder, mode is changed from plan to build ... system reminder is an injected runtime instruction telling me how I'm allowed to execute changes, not just plan. So first time equals your story decision. System reminder equals execution permission state change. What? Okay, hold on. Let me not ask that other question yet. What the heck is it talking about? Oh, I said, what does this mean? And I pasted stuff. And I think OpenCode then added a system reminder. And it thinks I added the system reminder. And I can't even ask it about it now because system reminders are transient. It doesn't stay in the conversation. Like it doesn't, you don't have message, system reminder, message. That's not what the LLM sees. The system reminder is always tacked on to the end, and it's not propagated. Like it doesn't stay in the context. It's just there for one context, and then in the next one it disappears, kind of like what prune does. It just doesn't send the original message in the first place. So I think I understand what was going on and why it said something about system reminder. That was so confusing for me, though. But we need to dig into the multiple places. Why there are two places that do the retrieval hint. This seems very risky. I want to know why it's actually needed. Okay, it's searching, reading. That's going to take a little bit, do its research and come back. Now, let's see. Why does it need? Oh, it's OpenCode is currently going to look at the plugin directory. Sure, we can allow that always in this project and confirm. Okay. That's proceeding. Context Bonsai. It came back with an answer. Why there are two places today. So this file has the actual runtime hook implementation that OpenCode executes. This file is a pure helper implementation used by tests. Okay. Yeah, I don't like that. They're not functionally required at runtime. The second one exists to test the transformer behavior in isolation. Okay, so it would have had to make the match anyway. That's fine. Refactor so the runtime calls one shared transform function or eliminate transform.ts. Oh, maybe it's not fine actually. I want more information about the test time. Let me see exactly what it says. A helper implementation. Does it actually make sense? Does it carry the risk of causing tests to test the wrong thing? Does it significantly simplify the tests instead of doing complex mocking or monkey packaging, etc.? Okay, we're going to get a better answer out of it. Back on the OpenCode side, it ran a full validation loop on story 1 with subagents. Oh yeah, that validation loop. Did it find anything? It did. How many times did it find something? Just once. Commit enumeration must be no merges. Merge commits may be added. Yeah, okay. Well, no, merge commits may just not be added. Ah, jeez, that auto scroll drives me nuts. Okay. Merge commits may be added only via explicit exception rows classified required with commit-specific rationale. Fine, we'll leave that there, but if there's a merge commit in the end, I'm going to be upset because we're going to have to clean it up. Freeze plugin parity test target before review. Plugin source path, plugin source SHA. Okay, sure. And then the replay group allowed values are runtime docs state only. Replay order is a unique one based integer over all required rows. What? I understand the replay group part, and that's kind of whether it fits in phase 2 or phase 3. Replay order is a one based integer over all required. Oh, sure. So it'll list out all the commits. It'll list out whether it's a runtime commit or a documentation commit, and then it's going to figure out the order that the commits should be applied. That's what replay order is. Okay, sure. That's fine. And it's again talking about merge commits. Okay, all those changes are fine. It probably didn't need to call that out, but everything's fine there. Okay. So now we're ready to orchestrate. Read the orchestrator agent instructions before starting. And this is the risky part because we're messing with the development version of OpenCode, which is what we're actually using on all these side projects to test out our plugin. It's where things went wrong before, and I could copy the source tree and work in an entirely different path, but YOLO. Okay, great. It did read the orchestrator instructions, and it is properly launching a developer subagent, so that's great. That appears to be working correctly. Oh, shoot, I didn't ask it about the other thing, which was placeholder text includes concise retrieval hit in both plugin. Oh, I did ask it about that. Okay. And now this one. So this is where the plugin has like a re-implementation of the transform. It makes some sense, but it does carry drift risk. What the test time helper is a pure function That's at least good. Used heavily by the tests. Runtime uses a separate inline logic. Okay. Does it simplify tests? Yes, significantly. It avoids a lot of ceremony and brittle mocking. Yep. Does it risk testing the wrong thing? Yes, of course it does. Is it needed? Needed for fast, focused unit tests. Not needed for runtime correctness if you have strong end-to-end hook tests. Current structure trades speed for duplication risk. My recommendation, no code yet. Keep the helper if you want fast unit test. Reduce the risk by making runtime hook call shared helper, single source of truth. Keep 1 or 2 integration tests hinting actual transform hook to catch wiring regression issues. Simplicity and avoids tests pass runtime wrong drift. How many lines would have to change as an estimate to de-inline this functionality in a way that makes sense to use it directly in tests? And de-inline, I really mean like a method extraction, a refactor. Good question. Rough estimate to de-inline cleanly runtime hook calls shared helper. Production code, 20 to 30 lines of code. Tests, 10 to 25 lines of code. I will want to do that at some point, but I'm not going to do it now. So, was that the only thing I needed to cover in this plan? I think it was. Oh, did I open it? Oh, yeah, I opened it up over here too. Yeah, we already reviewed all of this, and that was the only thing. Okay, let's close that. I don't need that terminal anymore. Okay. So I think it's ready to orchestrate the plan. And I think it did do the various validation loops. Yeah, it did. Escape worked for the first time. Okay. Read the orchestrator agent instructions. Just have it do that first. And then it'll probably say, would you like me to orchestrate the story? And I'll say yes. Oh, it's pruning something. The LLM's getting confused, which is interesting. We are up around 62% usage, and it did a prune where we fixed some bugs. This looks like an old change that we made that we have moved on from that it doesn't need to do anymore. The 2-pattern orchestration complete for the plugin story, reviewed and fixed prune retrieve behavior. Oh yeah, when the prune and retrieve were working incorrectly, we did resolve that quite a while ago. And it did read the orchestrator agent document. And now it's talking about when it dug into the 2 different implementations again. It, for some reason, thought I asked the question again. Interesting. I don't know why it thinks I asked that question again, because here's the original one. The original time I asked the question, and it responded, good question. No, that's not even the one. It's responding to this much older thing, this one. Hmm. Let me redo this. Oh yeah, it's not letting me use arrow keys anymore, so I can't push up and get my last message. Let me restate the same thing. Okay, that's what I was expecting originally. Context usage is up around 63%. Whoa. Oh, it just did auto compaction. Oh, dang. That's unfortunate. I'm surprised that it hit it at 63%. That seems really early. Hmm. Well, that's unfortunate. But we did finally hit auto compaction after. Oh, this is not the image to maze. This is the Context Bonsai OpenCode. I don't know how long this one has been running. It will be interesting to examine this session later. Overall, we've used 250,000 tokens. Oh, go away. Go away, UI. I never want to see that. Okay. And now we've cut it down to 13,000 tokens. What's it doing? It just automatically decided to do some stuff. At least it's reading the orchestrator agent document. It also did a prune. I don't know why. Captured the handoff state. The active task is orchestrating that. It understands that it's supposed to orchestrate that. That's good. Well, whoa. No, that's actually part of the prune. It's trying to prune out this message for some reason, I think. Can we see the reason in the tool call results? Summary. Captured the handoff state, the active task. Sure. I'm going to stop this. You're doing everything very, very wrong. Oh, it didn't read the file. It looked for the file. It did a get status. It read the plan. Okay. Oh, it did read the file here. There's the orchestrator agent guidelines. It wants to record a long-term memory for some reason. Let's see what happens. Allow. I want to see what it says about what it thinks it learned. Align with user execution intent before orchestration. When the user asks to continue, I didn't ask to continue, I think auto compaction did. First, restate the exact step in one sentence and wait for the confirmation. Okay. Do not launch subagents or start implementation until the exact operating mode is explicit for that turn. Prefer minimal, direct clarification over proactive orchestration when the user tone indicates friction. Nice. A lot of the times, these long-term memories are highly specific and include like project information that don't belong in these. This is supposed to include like general learnings that it made. And this one is pretty generic. I do like that. It looks like you were directly implementing instead of launching a subagent. Actually, let me see. Oh, I can't even see subagents. There's one. Oh, maybe it did. It does say you are a developer subagent. And yeah, that is the plan that it was doing. Okay, well. Huh. Okay. I thought you were just doing it directly. It wasn't clear that you were using subagents. Actually, I think you were doing the right thing. Okay. So now it's doing stuff. That guy's doing stuff. Image to maze guy has finally finished its plan. And it's got 3 stories. Let's look at the overall epic. I do, okay, usually there's a bit of notes where it says, here's the things we decided while planning, here's the ambiguous things, but I don't see that. So yeah, let's look at this epic. Deliver a browser-native MVP UI for image to maze that supports Poisson MST generation controls with live SVG PNG preview and guardrails for valid inputs. Okay. User model, power users iterating quickly on source images to tune the maze output interactively. Engineers validating deterministic generation behavior before committing. Visual creators comparing source image structure against the maze overlays. Yep. Maintainers needing a browser runtime that does not regress existing CLI workflows. Sure. User needs gamut, immediate feedback while adjusting the controls, including on medium large grids. Strong parameter guardrails that prevent invalid generation states and serve as clear corrective guidance. Yep. Session scoped controls memory during a tab lifetime without account storage setup. Yep. Side-by-side SVG and PNG preview parity with one quality path. No export quality split in MVP. Here's the ambiguities. Live preview cadence would favor maximum FPS or deterministic completion. Resolved to deterministic completion with debounced live feel updates and stale job cancellation. Browser renderer could target exact CLI parity or practical visual parity resolved to practical parity for MVP with deterministic tests on browser-specific render outputs. Yes, we do want parity with the CLI. Okay. PNG preview could use SVG re-rasterization or direct canvas geometry draw resolved to one browser rendering path that produces both SVG and PNG previews from the same maze graph semantics. That's not necessary, guy. Why would you think anybody would want to see both at the same time? You just need a way to see it. Kind of ridiculous. Let me get this. Copy. I'll go tell the LLM that was silly. Oh man, okay, fine. This seems silly. We are trying to get the parameters right. We're not trying to make sure both output types are correct. That part is generally not difficult. Producing a PNG from an SVG is trivial and solved. Oh, I didn't include the part where we really only need one, but we do need one. Single canonical preview path. Yes, that's right. Fix it and rerun validation loop. Okay, and let's go back here. Stories. Establish build runtime boundaries and implement the MVP control panel and essential render overlay settings. Worker pipeline cancellation. Oh, I like that it's adding cancellation. Live SVG PNG preview. Implements main thread / worker orchestration for image processing, the generation, the render output, including stale job cancellation and live preview updates. Okay. Validation guardrails, errors, deterministic verification. Finalize the validation error UX behavior and add deterministic tests / commands proving MVP correctness and performance expectations. Sure. Okay. Technical decisions. Canonical. Oh, there are so many here. Wow. Okay. I am curious about whether there was a technical decision about a rendering framework or a CSS framework or something like that. Canonical pre-processing spec. Decode image to RGBA on a main thread. Normalize orientation via browser decode. Composite alpha over white. Resize to grid by grid via canvas 2D with smoothing enabled. Okay. Compute grayscale with that. Clamp to 01 and do not apply blur in MVP. What is this talking about? That looks like things we're supposed to be adjusting, like specifically these values here. Those look like the threshold values that we were talking about. So yeah, we're gonna have to talk to the LLM about that. It's still updating stuff and it has not entered the validation loop yet. Let me go ahead and paste this in here and say what? Why do we lock to a specific RGB? The whole point of all of this is to let the user mess around with these thresholds. What's going on here? Deterministic decode environment for integration tests is locked to Playwright Chromium color EXIF behavior is validated against that engine. Sure, eligibility / mask rule remains identical to the generator contract. Yes. UI validation is intentionally stricter for the preview UX. Require mask floor less than mask threshold and block dispatch when equal. I don't want that. I want it to be the same as the CLI tool. And if the validation is actually, like, if it needs that validation, then just put it in the real stuff. So that's another thing. So copy this. No. If a validation is necessary, it's necessary in both. If you're going to tighten things up, do it in one place that both the CLI and UX use. Okay, next. Worker generator contract remains unchanged. Mask for value, mask threshold consistency means shared messaging and normalization, not identical boundary permissiveness. Shared messaging and normalization, not identical boundary permissiveness. Here's another one of those things. Way too dense. The LLM is assuming things know what that means, and I'm amazed that the child LLMs didn't flag that and say, what does this mean? Canonical render. Oh, let me, before I forget, paste that in here. Okay. Canonical render intermediate is a normalized draw-up list derived from the generated maze graph. Sure. SVG preview is emitted from this canonical draw-up list. Fine, that's okay, that's okay. Draw-up contract is locked. Primitives, rect, line, circle. Coordinates in grid space, floats rounded to 3 decimals. Style token enum. And stable ordering primitive, then style token, then coordinates. What is that talking about? Oh, wall, corridor, start, and underlay. As a style. Oh, okay. So the drawing operations can be drawn with a style. That style needs an enum to outline exactly which of those styles it's using. That's fine. Stable ordering by primitive, then style, then coordinates. Okay, so it's sort of defining the format of these draw-op lists. That's fine. Draw-op fields are fixed per primitive. I wonder if there's pre-existing things we could be doing rather than making up our own ideas of how to do this. So yeah, let's go back to the LLM and include another thing. This draw op business. Did we make that from scratch? Or is there a prior art influence, inspiration? Is this a normal way to do stuff? Are there other sources of inspiration we can use? Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not... The LLM tends to make up its own stuff without taking a step back and generalizing and thinking about this is a kind of pattern that happens in the real world and it goes like this, and we can kind of match that. So I want to make sure that it's just not narrowing down into its own ideas just on the quickest path to get something done. I want to think about the ways to do this, think about the options, and make sure we're choosing the best path for doing this. Style token order is locked. Yep, that's fine. Deterministic tiebreak chain is explicit for serialization hashing. Primitive order, rect, line, circle, over style order index, over numeric fields in primitive specific order. Topology nodes sort by X, then Y. Topology edges. I love that. It had to clarify a lot of stuff, and I appreciate that it did that. Rendering executes on the main thread for MVP. Worker is responsible for the generation only. Sure. Scheduler policy is latest only with QDepth 1. Scheduler. Oh, actually, if the rendering executes on the main thread, it means every time I move one of those sliders, it might freeze the UI for like even a minute. I don't know how long these mazes take to generate. That might be very unpleasant, but I'll accept it for the MVP because we can always push it to a worker thread if we really need to. Scheduler policy is latest only with QDepth 1. Monotonic job ID, stale response drop, and trailing debounce window. Okay, sure. So that scheduler, it's talking about when we're adjusting those things. I don't even think it's going to be... Oh, yeah, it will be necessary. So as we're changing the sliders and pushing check marks and stuff, like each change is going to result in a new request for a map generation. And in the background, there's that map generation happening. So the policy says that we're not going to generate a giant queue that it's going to go through and generate every one of those changes. It's just going to be as I change the slider, the queue depth is only 1. So whatever's in there is going to be replaced with whatever the latest one is. So that's good. In-flight semantics are fixed. Keep at most 1 pending job. Yeah. Newer edits replace pending payload. that says the same thing. Cancellation semantics are locked to stale response discard. Okay. To preserve deterministic behavior and avoid worker churn. Yes. Worker payload format is locked to transformable float 32 array plus scalar metadata, width, height, job ID, and params. No nested array encoding. Fine. Performance service level objective for MVP verification. Yeah, it doesn't really need that. And I don't trust if it doesn't make that SLO that it's actually going to succeed in making it better. But it wants the end-to-end preview to complete in under 750 milliseconds, which is going to feel pretty slow. If I make a change and then it takes nearly a second to update, I can't like gradually take a slider and move it up and move it down until I see the map start to look like the original image. But fine for MVP. If it's too slow, we can have a whole separate story for how to make that faster. Okay, service level objective enforcement split. Local smoke assertion is hard-gated. CI records timing and warns on regressions. Oh man, it's building a whole test and trying to time the UI. Fine. We'll see how that goes. That is going to be quite a big project that I don't trust it to do correctly, but it's a good stretch goal. We're intentionally trying to push this thing and see how Context Bonsai does and all of that, so fine. Warning contract is fixed. Smoke script exits 0 in CI and prints SLO warning when the median exceeds the threshold. Good. Deterministic verification hierarchy. Exact graph topology and key report metrics are mandatory. SVG comparison normalizes numeric precision to 3 decimals and strips insignificant white space. Sure. PNG is explicitly out of deterministic parity scope for MVP. If reduced, it's treated as a convenience rasterization. Sure. Required metrics list is fixed. Oh, actually, so yeah, this deterministic verification hierarchy is talking about running the test generator multiple times with the same seed and comparing the outputs. The output is going to be an SVG, and the SVG has to be normalized, all the white space removed and things like that. I'm not sure that's actually needed, but fine, we can have that. Required key metrics list is fixed. Node count, edge count, K used. I'm not sure what K is. Maybe kilobytes? No, it doesn't really make sense. Oh, I think K is one of the values that we edit for the map generation details. Start, end, and render draw up counts per style token. Okay. Draw up count metrics must always include all style tokens with explicit 0 values when absent. I'm surprised that as part of the key metrics, it doesn't include the seed, the generation seed. If it includes K, I would want it to include the seed. I would want it to include all the values. Yeah, I'm just not sure what it's thinking back there. Practical visual acceptance for MVP is objective. Really, it's objective. We're going to visually accept something objectively. Topology metrics plus draw up metrics plus SVG. Oh, okay. It's things that can be accepted objectively are being accepted objectively. That makes more sense. PNG specific drift comparators are out of scope. Topology Oracle format is locked to deterministic snapshot JSON with one approved refresh script. SHA-256 is computed from the canonical JSON string with a fixed key order. Okay. Essential renderer overlaid controls for the MVP are fixed to show source underlay and show start end markers. Render overlay, show source. Oh, the show source is when it shows the original rendering, like the banana image, it would show this behind this or on top of that. And the start end markers are the little tiny circles on here that indicate the end, which is here, and the start, which is here. That's what it's talking about for that overlay. Oh shoot, I lost my place because I clicked just to focus the window and it moved my mouse there. Oh man, I need to turn off Vim's mouse mode stuff. Oh, we're right there. Okay. MV preview is fixed to ink. That's fine. We can use the ink theme. Draw up mapping contract. Include underlay, wall lattice. Corridor strokes are not necessary, but fine. Start end markers, yes. Intentionally omit the legend, fine. Texture noise overlay. I don't know what that is. And corridor shadow layers for MVP, I don't really want, but fine. Underlay toggle semantics are locked. Underlay draw ops are always generated for deterministic metric snapshots, and show source underlay controls visibility only, not op present slash count. I don't really know what that means, but I also am not too concerned about it. It's the underlay, which I think is the original image that it's talking about. Canonical control defaults. Grid, seed, radius, K neighbors. Oh, maybe that's the K. K neighbors. Mask floor, mask threshold, invert density, show source underlay, show markers. Okay. Oh yeah, source underlay. So the underlay is that original source. So this is talking about toggling that on and off, and the semantics are locked. Underlay draw ops are always generated for deterministic metrics. Okay, sure, fine. Yep, that makes sense. Existing dev preview artifact checked flow remains intact. MVP UI uses separate browser app scripts and separate HTML shell files. Placeholders remain untouched. Not quite sure what that means, but I kind of trust it. Preview state contract is fixed. Before first successful render, errors show an explicit empty state panel. After first success, errors retain last good preview plus the error banner. I'm not sure that's the behavior I want. We'll see how that actually comes out at the end product. Browser toolchain is locked to Vite with output under that directory. Required package wiring is explicit. Add Vite and some stuff. Okay, test harness split is fixed. Bun test for stuff and playwright for other stuff. Good. Browser integration checks are CI enforced by installing Chromium in workflow. Bunx playwright install with deps Chromium before running E2E commands. Sure. Preview smoke executes inside headless Chromium via playwright. Yep, that's fine. Non-goals. Okay, multi-method switching beyond Poisson MST. Persistent presets. Yep. Dedicated export download. Yep. Tutorial onboarding flows. Yep. Nice to have backlog items. Okay, sure. Yep. All of that stuff is fine. So now we can go back to the LLM and ask it about these other things. Okay. Okay, that RGB thing is not locking color thresholds. It's just the grayscale conversion formula. Oh, Rec 709 luminance. Okay, fine. But your intent is valid. This should be configurable if you want to tune behavior. I don't want to configure that for the MVP. Rec.709 lumens for the MVP. Okay. Okay. On validation, UI stricter than generator. This is bad design here. It should be one shared validation contract used by both. Yes. So we should remove the split language and reuse the same validator module in both paths. Okay. Yes. Do make sure we use one validation contract and code paths if we want stricter stuff, then that needs to apply to the CLI as well. Okay, on validation. Oh, we already did that. On the confusing sentence, worker generator, what was the confusing sentence? Oh yeah, that was weird. Worker generator contract unchanged, not identical boundary permissiveness, was trying to justify mismatch. It's not a good contract statement for your goals. Better. Identical permissiveness everywhere. Same bounds, same edge case handling, same error messages. That is not clear at all. Okay, telling it I want more context around this. On draw ops, yes, this is a normal pattern. It's basically a display list slash scene graph light. Prior art inspirations, canvas display list pipelines, Skia, Flutter style command streams, React native, Skia fabric command modules, PDF SVG render pipelines. Okay, good, okay, good. As long as that's a normal way to do this, I'm happy. Given there is prior art doing this draw up stuff, I'm happy with it as is. Don't update anything yet. I want more conversation about the confusing sentence. Now, so far on this image to maze project, we've been way more vibe codey about it, and I've not been digging into the plans because this is very specifically like I just want to see the Context Bonsai stuff happening while we do a project. But I do eventually, I would like to publish this on a page. It seems like it would be fun for people to play around with. And this UI part is long and complex, and there's lots of ways this could go wrong. So I am doing slightly less vibe codey stuff and trying to understand the plan more deeply and know what it's doing before it actually goes and does stuff. And I am catching stuff, which is good. Okay, confusing sentence. The sentence was blah. Why it's confusing, it mixes two layers and implies they can disagree. That's not why it's confusing. It's because I have no fucking clue what permissiveness means. What are you talking about? What are identical boundaries? Oh, actually, it is going to clarify that. UI and generator might allow different edge cases. Edge cases of what? That is exactly what you don't want. Right, yeah, it seems like I wouldn't want that, but what? What are you talking about? Concrete example of the bad version. UI blocks mask floor equals mask threshold is invalid. Generator allows it. CLI maybe allows it too. Result, same params behave differently depending on where you run them. That's a contract bug. What it should say instead. There's one canonical validation rule set. CLI and browser both call the same validator. Worker and generator receive already validated params. Therefore, boundary behavior is identical everywhere. Okay, that's correct. Update the plans, redo validation. Okay, there it goes. Let's see on our plugin. It said it executed the next step and completed the prune retrieve clarity story implementation. Commit the changes, move on to the next story. It shouldn't be asking me about it if I want these changes committed or if it should move on to the next story. It's supposed to complete the whole epic. But it had the weird compaction thing that happened in the middle of everything, so lots of stuff is happening weird here. and is an exact like example of why we're trying to avoid compaction in the first place. It's what Context Bonsai is supposed to take care of. Um, but this LLM session didn't prune early enough, frequent enough to make sure that doesn't happen, unfortunately. And we ended up in this weird state where compaction happened and now it's kind of dumb. Okay, it's continuing. How about the OpenCode guy? Oh, that's looking in temp. Why? Allow once. Allow once again. I wonder what the heck it's doing with temp. And it's the reviewer agent that's doing it too. Let's see if we can peek in on this. Is this the one that's doing it? I don't know. Yeah, it is this one. Okay, where is it touching /temp? Maybe the work trees were set up in /temp? If it is, we need to add stuff to the plans to make sure the work trees are not in /temp, but it's going to be a little bit tricky. We'll have to make a new directory and make sure that directory is in gitignore so it doesn't get confused about what belongs in OpenCode and what doesn't belong in OpenCode. I'm still not really seeing actual accesses to /temp in here though. Oh, yeah, here we go. Verify plugin source shopin matches head and temp. Oh, it is doing stuff. It looks like this agent finished whatever it was doing, so let's go up. Oh, it's asking to read temp again. Let's just allow it permanently. How's this guy doing? What did I ask it to do? Complete the whole epic. I can do that and I'm ready to run it end to end. Proposed. Do it. Do it. I said do it. Do it. Jeez. Oh, it asked a clarification. The whole epic. Okay, hold on. The whole epic of this, including all stories that are part of that epic. Okay, I think the OpenCode guy is continuing. We have more permission. Why? Access external directory, because it's looking at the OpenCode source code. Always, you're allowed to do that. So this has been one of the... Why? Why are you using Git incorrectly? And which one is doing it? There's no way to tell which window that came from. Hold on. What is it doing? Why? Stop everything. Why are you running Git? What is going on? Somehow it's down to 7% context now. Did it do a prune? Here's where I said the whole epic. It's reading stuff. Run full. It should never run tests. What the hell is it doing? This thing has gotten so dumb. This is bad. Do you have the file called orchestrator agent.md in your context? Not currently in the context. Okay. Read the file. Holy moly. There is an agents.md file that this does load that tells it if you're asked to orchestrate something, here is how you do it. You read that file first, and then you follow that file. Right. Don't know if I should trust anything that has happened now. Have you previously launched developer, reviewer, judge, subagents for what's completed in the epic so far? Okay, now on the OpenCode side, it's still trying to access the plugin directory. No? That's not, oh, it's created a new work tree thing. Allow always, confirm. Before we got interrupted, I was saying this is kind of like an important deficiency in OpenCode. Because OpenCode's configuration has no way to allow list directories outside of the current working directory, it's really limiting on certain things, like exactly what it's doing now. It's trying to create work trees. It doesn't create them in the current directory. It creates them in separate directories, which is how get work tree works. But then every time it launches a new subagent and that subagent has to access that directory, it has to ask for permission, and that completely slows down all the progress that can be made. That's a big problem with OpenCode specifically. All of the other ones I have ways of working around, but OpenCode is not letting me do that. Okay, so this agent is fessing up that it did the wrong stuff. It did launch a developer agent, but it didn't do the process. Okay. In that case, start following the instructions, the orchestration instructions. Create your tracking table. Pretend as though you've done one single developer round that has not yet been through its first review. Okay. Great. Continue this orchestration through the rest of the entire epic. Okay, let's hope this does the right thing. Hold on. Reject. That's not the right directory. Why were you reading that directory? You're right, that was a miss on my part. I should have. I didn't ask you what you should do. my god. I fell back to the original path I remembered from your... Okay. Exactly what is the source of my earlier instructions that included that exact path? I'm hoping it can tell me what file is loaded into its context that has the wrong path. claw.md. We already fixed this. Vim, claw.md. LLM conductor. Okay, here's the place where it's mentioned. It says there is a thing there. It should be symlinked to there. If you need it and it's not symlinked, create the symlink. Okay, where else is that path mentioned? Next, next. Okay. That file specifically says to symlink that directory. You should not be trying to read from that directory. So I still need to fix those instructions to make sure the LLMs are not stupid about it. This is so frustrating. Oh my god, dude. So continue doing the right thing. Wow. And now it's pruning for some reason. Oh boy. And I do not trust it at this point. So normally, I would have given up on this session long ago, but I am very much trying to push its boundaries and see what this Context Bonsai prune stuff can do. Archive large reference dump after extracting operational rules. Summary loaded orchestrator agent MD and established. It just pruned out its own fucking instructions. Oh my god. It looks like you pruned out the message or the tool call where you read orchestrator agent.md. Is this true? Do you have that file in your context right now? So this is by far the worst behavior we've seen since we more or less have settled on a working plugin, which is way better than without the plugin. We've gone so far. I mean, we have improved, but it's obviously not perfect. This has been pretty frustrating. Okay, now this guy is still going. It's going through the right process of launching subagents to revise things, review things, judge, and so on. Back to the developer again. Image to maze. Let's see. Great feedback. I updated the plans accordingly, and it did do the validation loop. Okay, so I'm going to kick this one off. Let's see how it does. Right now, the context is 25%. I think I want to double check and make sure that this number here, the number of tokens, is sort of like a historical over the entire session, how many tokens we have used, rather than how many are currently in the active context. Because if it's the second one, then this number and this number disagree, and it makes sense why auto compaction happened in the other one, because the other one, when it got to the auto compaction, we were only 60 something percent, and I think that normally happens around 80%. So I can start doing that digging now. In fact, let me just screenshot this. Okay. Where is my mouse? There we go. Okay, I want to screenshot this. Okay. There we go. I've got a nice little screenshot, and I'll get to that at some point. Oh yeah, so this is ready to go. Let's go. Read the okay. Let's see what this plugin LLM is doing. It's running more prunes. Wow. Using Git incorrectly again somehow. And all I did was ask it. I asked it if it pruned out this thing. And it's not answering me first. Instead, oh, maybe it is answering me. Okay, completed story. Yep. But then it ran more prunes. Do not do anything unless I explicitly, I keep spelling that wrong, I think, ask you to. Right now, you must, errors are still broken, must answer my question. My question was this. That. Oh, it has slowed down because it's building OpenCode. And it's out of memory. Okay, there we go. Let me pause this OpenCode guy for a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Okay. Do you have that file anywhere in your context? Yes, I pruned the full output where I read orchestrator agent.md. Right now in active context, I have a summary of it. Okay. You have done a very, very poor job of using Context Bonsai prune. Do you understand why you need the full instructions in your context? You've done this multiple times, I think. Do you understand that the prune tool is supposed to be used for things you no longer need to get your job done? What do you think are the best next steps? Restore the full file into active context first. Set a hard rule for this run. Do not prune any governing instructions. Continue the epic strictly in sequence with visible states after each phase. Pruning only for disposable artifacts, large command outputs, intermediate review text, repeated logs after outcomes. Add a quick context safety checks before each prune. Will I still be able to execute correctly without this full text? If not, then prune. Okay. If not, don't prune. Okay. That's right. Don't use the retrieve tool. just read the file directly. Okay, you now have explicit permission to continue orchestration. No, oh my God, it's pruning again. Oh boy. We'll see how this turns out. Here we go, more allowing it to read directories in a subagent. Pretty irritating, and the original one needs something. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Hold on. Let's fix this claw.md right now. It's up here. You are not to read this directly. It should be symlinked in the current directory as that. If you read it, if you read the symlink, yeah, if you attempt to use the symlink and it's not there yet, go ahead and create that symlink. Okay. Reject and reject. Okay, let's just stop that. Reread this claw.md. Well, is it going to even be able to do that? I might have to just quit OpenCode and resume the session to make sure that subagents get the new version. Actually, let's just do that. Quit. OpenCode dev underscore dev. Continue. Okay, I had to stop the developer agent because it was referencing the wrong paths. Make sure when you give the developer the paths to the developer instructions, you're not using the wrong path. Relaunch. Okay. And the OpenCode guy is still going. The plugin guy is about to launch a subagent. And there it goes. Let's take a look. It's pointing to the right place. That's good. Oops. Go away. Go away. Here's what I was talking about before. This dialog pops up and you're supposed to hit escape to get out of it, but you can't. I think I have to click inside of it and then hit escape. Nope. How about here? That is ridiculous. I'm losing my patience all over the place for OpenCode, for the LLM. Okay, this looks like it's doing the right thing, so back here. It's doing it again. Okay, let's look again here. Yeah, it's reading. It's actually trying to read. Another thing that has changed in OpenCode is at some point I was allowed to interact with the subagents directly. There was a box here just like there was with the main session, and I could ask it questions here, but right now that's not there. So I can't figure out what the heck it's doing. Maybe the parent agent is allowed to communicate with the subagent. Let's see. Why won't it let me type stuff in here? Hello? Tell OpenCode what you want. What do you expect me to do, guy? Escape. Reject. What does enter do? Okay. It's trying to launch a developer again. The other LLMs are not having problems. They are marching forward without these issues. I do not understand why this is happening. Now still getting a new agent. And again, it didn't answer my dang question. I asked it if it can communicate with the subagent. It didn't answer me, it just launched a new subagent. I don't understand why it's so bad when it has cleared out its context recently. It auto-compacted, it's only got 60,000 tokens. There should be nothing in the context that is this dang confusing to it. Okay, so embedded into the story, it injected the wrong stuff. Okay, fix the story. Redo the validation loop for the stories as defined in planning guidance.md. At least the agent was able to tell us where that path came from. That's good. And that clarifies why this kept happening in this session. Okay. Image to maze guy has read the orchestration instructions, so orchestrate the epic. Okay, what's it doing again? Okay, this is fine. The plugin story has a lot of stuff about the OpenCode package, so now it's reading stuff about the OpenCode package. That part's fine. Okay, let's hope that's fine. Oh, actually, it never fixed the stories. It read the planning guidance, then it immediately started launching subagents to look for missing details. That's not what I asked it to do. More stuff that it's doing wrong. You are not following my explicit instructions. Stop everything and tell me what I asked you to do. Fix the story, the blocked story. Redo the validation loop. So do you understand why I asked you to fix the story? Run it correctly is not what fix the story means. It means you fucked up by putting the wrong paths in there, which we repeatedly saw problems because the sub-agents were following your incorrect instructions. Fix the story means fix the story document instructions themselves so they stop pointing sub-agents at bad paths. That's right. So you'll update the story, and then since you updated the story, you're going to launch the validation loop to make sure the story is still in good condition before we continue. Got it? Go. All right, let's hope that that works. Now, the OpenCode LLM is still going nicely, it seems. Banana to image guy seems to be doing, well, nope, not the right thing. I think it launched a sub-agent and told the sub-agent to orchestrate rather than directly being the orchestrator. Let's take a look. Sub-agent session. Let's go to the very top. You are the implementation orchestrator sub-agent. We've seen it do this once before, and it completely failed the first time. I think I'm inclined to see if this can succeed this time. Last time what happened is it launched the orchestrator. Not this again, go away. Okay, it launched the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator proceeded to actually implement the story itself rather than launch a developer and reviewer and judge and all of that stuff. It does say to read the orchestrator instructions. I don't know what this meta orchestrator procedure is about. I don't even remember that file being there. Did it create that just now? Orchestrate this epic. Critical constraints. You are coordinator only. Use subagents for implementation. Good. All right, maybe it'll do the right thing this time. Well, the half right thing. Oh. No, it's not doing the right thing. I think that subagents cannot launch additional subagents, which I think is, it's trying to just launch OpenCode here to do the subagent. And I think because it will fail, it will just continue to implement the story itself instead of reporting that it failed. Huge problem with LLMs right now. OpenCode, okay, stop. Okay, let's go back up to the parent. Stop everything. No, you're doing it wrong. I told you to orchestrate. Subagents cannot launch additional subagents. This has been so weird and so unlike everything we've been doing for the last 3 weeks or so. This is just going crazy today. And this is the image to maze project. This has been the golden one that's been just doing things right. There are people online that report that a given model will sometimes behave dumb on certain days, and the model providers, or the inference providers rather, reiterate that it doesn't happen except for rare cases. There was one time when they messed up some auto router and it was sending requests to the wrong model or something to that effect. But other than that, the model is the model. If you're using GPT 5.3 codecs, it's GPT 5.3 codecs. It doesn't get smarter or dumber. Your context changes, and that causes different behaviors. But the model itself doesn't do this day to day. But this has been across multiple sessions. It's been so strange and not at all like what we've been doing for the past several weeks. What you've seen on the live streams, if you've been following the live streams, stuff's just going haywire right now. And this is why people say some days the model seems really dumb. If it was isolated in one session, that would be one thing. But this is just generally doing wrong stuff that it doesn't normally do wrong. But it does seem like the image to maze project is doing the right thing. I keep almost calling it the banana project because our most recent image was this banana. But if I say that now, you know what I mean. Our plugin LLM is asking for permissions again. Valid permissions to ask for. Allow, confirm. And the OpenCode guy is continuing on like normal. That one's been rock solid and doing the right thing for very long now. I like that. This is still fixing its instructions and doing the validation. Okay, well, 3 LLMs are off doing their stuff, and this session has been going on really long, so it's a good time to end the stream for here. And we'll continue tomorrow where we left off. Hopefully, we have a working UI. I kind of doubt it. Usually, a project that large, especially UI stuff, is just not going to end up right. So we'll figure out what happened on image to maze. For Context Bonsai stuff, hopefully, this rebase project is going to work, and we'll be able to launch a new OpenCode dev. It'll be the latest OpenCode dev, and it will have the Context Bonsai changes rebased on top. And ideally, the plugin will continue working just fine. And then on this side, I don't even remember what we were doing anymore. We've been fighting this agent for a while. And I don't even remember what we're trying to implement at this point. So once things clear up and it completes whatever story it's doing. Oh, here we go. What is this? Epic Dev Rebase, Bonsai Decoupling Story. I wonder what it's doing. Yep, I don't know. I'll have to figure out where the plugin side of the story is, but the open code side of the story, I'm excited to see what happens there. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m.